Hi everyone, welcome to Designing Up. I'm your host Nuwan. The purpose of this podcast is to talk with individuals who moved up into the leadership roles to find out what helped them and what worked. You will hear from all kinds of leaders, product, tech, design, entrepreneurs, people from all kinds of backgrounds who figured out how to step up and lead because the truth is great leadership principles cross boundaries. My mission is to showcase what makes a great design leader, bring you diverse perspectives from people who've actually done it, and most importantly, help you figure out your own path to get there. Every episode is designed to give you something actionable you can use in your own journey. In this episode, I will be talking with Hamid Hadi, a staff software engineer at Walt, Berlin, Germany. Thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Maybe we can start with the mindset, right? So I
Yeah.
can also go, well, I can also tell you like when I started, I actually never thought about it a lot, right? Because you get caught up with the weeds, right? You do the work, you
Yeah.
try to get better at craft, right? All the time. And I also mentor, as you know, and
Yeah.
a lot of times I do mentor. A lot of times I get these questions, and that means like I can actually see like they're going through the very same cycle, right? Like
Yeah.
I was. So I thought like, yeah, this is a great chance to also talk about it. So uh,
Yeah.
from my side, I can tell you like it took some time. Like you get better at craft, and then you think like, okay, I'm pretty good at craft now. What can I do, right? And
Yeah.
then you think about what are the skills you need to get there, and you figure out like there's so many other skill
Yeah.
sets that you need to learn. Is it
Cool.
the same for you?
Yeah, of course. I think that's similar for everybody. So you just start with developing your harder skills a lot in the beginning, and after a while you realize that okay, there's always something that you can learn as a harder skill, but you just naturally um, go toward more like a soft skill learning as well. If you want to grow, if you have that kind of growth mindset, that's a kind of natural behavior for everybody. At some point, you just try to also work on the other side of the equation, basically.
Yeah, I think that what you said is true. Like very important, also the growth mindset, right?
Yeah.
Like 'cause I think maybe that's a good point also to talk about because a lot of times a lot of people talk about it, but I don't
Mm.
know if it really that clear to a lot of people still. What
Mm.
does growth mindset means, right?
Yeah.
Do you have like how because maybe we can think like how we both look at it, right? Maybe we both look
Yeah.
at it different way. How do you, by the way, look at it?
Um. Well, the way I see it is like I don't. I so I've been trying all the time to not restrict myself to a specific thing. When it comes to software engineering, it can be like a specific technology or something like that, or even a specific position. To me, it's like okay, so you are now working in like as a software engineer, you should be able to do a lot of things outside of your comfort zone as well. So you always need to push your comfort zone a little, just bigger and bigger, just make it bigger. um, so if you have a growth mindset and you are getting comfortable with the place that you are, you always try to challenge yourself to, stretch your knowledge, stretch your experience so that you can also push the boundaries and do the other things. But if you don't, you just get comfortable and then stay there for a long time. I think that's how I define it.
But I also look at very different, like some aspects, like I also think like, myself, this is included, like, um, try to almost like learning to unlearn things that so you
Yeah,
can actually learn something new, right? Because
yeah,
we always get like caught up with like you know something, but then you think like
yeah. That's true.
maybe you don't need to learn a little bit, maybe you just need a little bit more skill there, but then sometimes you figure out like you need to actually learn the foundation of that, the
Exactly.
whole set, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. Actually, I think it's a good point because most of the time it's also good to question our already gained knowledge or something,
Yeah, yeah.
because there's always something that you can learn even from the thing that you already learned. And whenever you meet new people, you work with different teams and companies, even your already existed knowledge can be also improved. So
Hmm.
if if you have this kind of mindset of questioning yourself all the time, you can always be open to learn new things, and that's true.
Yeah. And yeah, apart from that, I'm a huge believer of like creating the foundational skills of everything, right? Like
Yeah,
that's just the bare bone because a lot of times it's going to be very hard. Also, this is from experience if you don't learn those skills very
yeah.
beginning,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think those are important. I've seen people jump into different positions very quickly and
Mm,
just trying to, climb the ladder much faster than
mm,
should. And I've seen also people working in some small startups that, because of the nature of the startups, they just try to make people happy and then they just give people title. But the reality is that they haven't actually had a chance to get the understanding of those fundamental knowledge, and at some point they feel like, okay, all these titles and everything is just the inflation of kind of, yeah, it's not something that they can use it in a real world and in more complex project. So yes,
mm,
fundamentals are important and they're always important. Even if you are working as a leader, you should always get back to the fundamentals and make sure that your knowledge in that area is sharp enough that you can
exactly.
lead your team. Otherwise, it's always not possible.
Yeah, yeah, that's 100% true. And yeah, in the startups, of course, you learn something completely different also
Yeah.
because then you're in a growth environment, right? You got
Yeah.
to do everything. That's also a growth, actually, in my opinion, like a very good growth for your career. But yeah, you're right. And one other thing you actually mentioned, which is very important also for like mentoring others, maybe managers, right? Like that's very important, having a good manager.
Mhm.
It's very hard to find really great managers, right?
Yeah.
And then every time people become managers, when you ask them, they always say, I want to become manager because I didn't have a good manager. And I thought like I could do something. Actually, this happened many times. I talk to people, right?
Yeah.
Even like recently, I talked to somebody and he mentioned the same thing, I want to become manager because I experienced bad
Exactly.
management.
Exactly.
Uh,
I think people get to manage a management position because of exactly the same reasons. Either they are not happy with their managers and they want to change things, or they were fortunate enough to meet good managers and
mhm,
saw how good managers can improve uh, people's not just career but also life. So they want
yeah,
to do the same thing. Yeah, typically these are the two reasons people moved in.
yeah.
Or we also have people who are just like managing people, so they gotta do that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, it is exactly. Well, I think one of the books I can recommend to everybody listening, Making of a Manager.
Mm,
It's one of the best books actually to get into if you think about management. So we talk about career progression mindset, right? Mindset, creating this mindset. I think very early on, the more you help others, especially mentoring junior levels, this can also, I think, drastically increase your progression because there's so many ways, right? So many angles that you can think look at it. Number one, you're practicing your leadership. Number one, you try to teach, right? You try to make others better.
yeah,
It can be directly your team or people knowing your team or somebody outside, but you have to be good, right? You build the credibility, I would say, even if you mentor them, because you need to learn because you're helping somebody, and you're also getting better. That's something, because you need to practice. You need to learn like people
yeah,
skills. You learn things that maybe you never think, but
yeah,
actually gonna help you a lot when you go into like
yeah.
up in your career. What do you
Exactly.
think? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that's true. I also believe that there's a saying from someone that I don't remember the whole thing, but the
Hmm.
context and the like a general meaning is that if you cannot teach something to someone, then it means that you don't know how that works. So yes, when you get into this kind of mentoring mindset and try to help others to also understand this stuff, it means that you are competent enough um, to work with that thing, or to to just have this knowledge as a skill for yourself. So yeah, that's true.
Hmm. It's good, like we're in the two different roles, but two different disciplines. We see in the
Yeah,
same way. So I guess that means like uh, every career has like very similar trajectory, I guess, to grow, right? That's what we're trying to prove.
yeah, exactly. I think when it comes to soft skills and general kind of understanding of the how to work,
Hmm.
I think more or less it's similar. It doesn't matter in which domain you're working, because the concepts are the same.
Yeah, I think I want to touch on another point, taking ownership. like
Yeah.
really being, the person that you are really good at driving things, you're good at closing loops, you can actually people can rely on you, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is a skill actually, you'll be surprised because if I go back, this is a skill I would develop so much if
Mhm.
I go back because that gives you so much credibility and like the power to influence people, power to do a lot of things.
Exactly. I mean, when it comes to influencing people, the first thing which is very important is you need to make sure that you can help others and you help people to achieve what they want to achieve. That's the one of the first steps to influence people. That's kind of a
Hmm.
psychological, thing.
Yeah.
You need to people should make sure that okay, you are someone that they can rely on before
Mm.
they also try to help you. So if you have this kind of ownership mindset and being good at what you're doing, uh, so people can start relying on you more and more, and then you can also influence people at the same time.
Yeah. When you do have very this attribute of ownership, I think people will respect you. I think that is I think the most important respect and trust that can go a long way. Because for example, you can put into real time now, like as engineer yourself, and I'm a designer, and we work in a two different orgs, right?
Yeah.
And the more I take ownership of my side, you're gonna feel free, right? You're gonna feel much more
Exactly.
empowered to do your work, right? You don't need to think about mine. It's vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you want to climb the ladder, don't try to show off your knowledge or something. Just try to help people around you and people above you.
Yes.
I think then the climbing and progression just come naturally
Yeah.
because people want you to do more. And that's a natural kind of steps toward more progression and to your career.
Yeah, 100%. And I would also add helping across too. That's like your
Yeah.
stakeholders. That's also very important, I think, especially when you're like in the management, I would say. Across is very important.
Yes.
But yes, you're right.
Yeah, definitely. That's also important. Generally speaking, I mean, it depends on where you are, right? So if you are
Hmm.
engineer, designer, you cannot really help across the other teams that much.
Yes,
But you can first make sure that you can help your team very well, so
100%.
you can get into a position where you can also help other teams and your, I don't know, departments, and then eventually the whole organization. So it's a step
Yeah.
by step, and it takes time, but fundamentally it's the same thing.
And yeah, maybe we can go into the progress into maybe a next part. Towards leadership. But I want to actually talk about like maybe when you go into leadership, especially, I think it's very important to create your philosophy around leadership, right?
Mm.
And like how do you want to lead? Because that reflects how people are going to follow you and how people are going to approach you, how people see you, right?
Exactly.
Manager or individual contributor. Because when you're starting out, you probably don't think about it, but the
Yeah.
more you think about it, like what kind of leader you want to be,
Mhm.
that's you're gonna create your identity, right? You're gonna create your structure. Then you are much more comfortable. Like, this is the person, this is the kind of leadership. If I go into a role, this
Yeah.
is what I want to do.
Well, I think it also depends on what kind of leadership you are transitioning to. If you're managing people, then we have this concept of servant leadership. I'm not sure if you have heard
Yes,
or not,
yes.
but the whole point is make sure that everybody around you are happy and so basically the thing is putting everybody else first, understand their needs, their goals, how they want to progress, how they want to grow, and then try to help them to actually do that. That's the leadership kind of philosophy that I really liked, and that's something we believe at Volt as well. So that's one of the fundamentals of the leadership at
Yeah,
Volt. And I see that it actually works very well. So, and people are happy about that. If you're not managing people, I think you can still apply the same philosophy because, when I work with product engineers and I don't know other teams, it's also important to make sure that first understand other teams' goals so that once we are planning for the big projects, we can make sure that they can achieve what they want to achieve. More or less the same concept, but it probably makes more sense when it comes to people management, but you can still apply some of the fundamentals.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, non-people management roles.
There is a saying also, and it's very true. Like before you go into when you before you get promoted, you need to actually practice the role, right?
There is this concept of nobody deserved their position in the organization, because if they were if they had learned everything that they could, then they should be like in a higher position basically. So you're always
Yeah.
learning your next position when you are working at your current position.
Exactly. And yeah, and you talk about servant leadership. This is very important because I had a conversation with one of my mentors and we talked about this. It's actually crazy, like all the best organizations, all the best leaders actually practice servant leadership, right? Like
Yeah.
flat structure, right? There is no hierarchy, but you make everybody better. And when everyone start doing better, you all do better, right? That's the idea.
And what I've observed so far is that the first thing you need to do is to build the trust between
Yeah.
you and people you are managing. That's
Yeah.
very important. That can open other doors between you and the people that you're coaching or managing. So it takes some time. It's also important to understand very well their needs and their character. So once the trust is there, then you can work together much easier. And of course, you need to make sure that you are empowering your people around you.
Exactly. Hmm.
So if someone says that, okay, I need more thing to do, or I want to take more ownership, just trust them and delegate more people, more basically work to them. And then even if you feel like they're gonna fail, I would say just do it in a more like a managed format, so they can fail. Even if they fail, they learn a lot. And just be with them along the way, so they don't feel like,
Hmm.
okay, I've done something wrong, and then I cannot do that anymore. Just encourage them to do that.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's how it should be.
Yeah.
But and that's what I've experienced, and I enjoyed this kind of management uh,
Mhm.
philosophy.
What you said actually exactly resonate with myself, right?
Mm.
And I see it the same way because what you maybe to even like simplify it, like in the beginning you have IQ, right? You're super good
Yeah,
and you make credibility, right? You do things really well, hard skills. So that's how you build credibility, right? You have high IQ, I guess. Now you go into leadership that you need to develop the EQ, right? The part of like you probably that the opposite side.
yeah,
It's not the hard skills, all the soft skills, but also like how to work with people, the real people skills, right? How
yeah,
to work with the difficult dynamics,
yeah,
enabling, like you said, the people to succeed, letting them fail and learn.
yeah,
Uh, but
definitely.
yeah, exactly the same way I see it, the same way like you mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. So the thing is, when you are working, like I can just give examples as engineering, but usually when you are working as engineer, so you're just working with systems,
Mhm.
and systemizing is very different from empathizing. And when you work with people, you need to empathize rather than systemize, although there are some similarities as well. But this is a bit like a shifting the mindset, and you need to learn it. But yeah.
Cool. So let's maybe quickly recap. Like, so we talked about this, yeah, now the leadership style. We talked about the mindset earlier. I actually want to maybe move into a slightly different area. Since you're an engineer and I'm a designer, see like how we see each other's opinions. So
Yeah.
maybe how do you actually identify, let's say, a great designer? And I can tell you the same for the engineer. Like, this person has a really good leadership skills and this
Mm.
person can actually move in and I can trust this person.
Yeah. Um, it's a bit difficult for me to answer this, because when I started my career, I was like a UI designer, and I always had I've always had a good relationship with designers around me, and and uh, but if I want to just talk about how the collaboration can be, that we can both get something out of it, I think so far what I've seen is that the more collaboration happen between the engineers and designers, and getting the engineers input early on, that would be very beneficial for the whole team.
Mm-hmm.
so that we are building something together rather than designers going into silo and then design something and then just show up with the like the end design and say this is what we want to implement, and we say okay, it's actually not possible to do that. So I've seen many like different styles of designers. It's been always more successful when I've seen people um, how to say like involve us during their thinking process and how they
Mm-hmm.
want to approach like a design and a user experience, and then eventually we find something which works for both designers and engineers.
It's all about now, like you mentioned, like influencing, like seeing things together and collaboration from the beginning, not working in silos.
Yeah,
So a lot of these things are actually soft skills, right?
exactly. So
That's
it's the same thing. So so we talked about influencing people and soft skills and stuff. So it's all about communicating well, listening to people, and understanding
yes.
their needs. It's always the same thing in different format.
Yes. I think that is like 100% one of the most important attributes. We know the more soft skills you get, better. Of course, you need a very strong hard skills. Don't get me wrong. Without that, you don't have the credibility, right? But
Yeah.
like there is like if you're off with your soft skills, with your hard skills, like if you have very high score of hard skills and very low level of soft skills, mostly you might struggle to actually move into a different role,
Oh,
right? Especially
100%.
upwards,
Yeah,
right?
100%. That's 100% true. You can be the best software engineer in the world, but nobody can work with you. So it doesn't really make
Yes,
sense, right?
exactly.
So it's always important to make sure that you are not you whatever you do in whatever industry you're working, there's always another human beside you, above you, or somewhere else. So it's always about also humans as well. So
Yeah.
you're not just sitting behind a computer just doing something. I don't know, maybe in the future that will
Yeah.
happen, but right now
Yeah.
it's just still the same. So yeah, human skills are important.
Yeah, no, 100%. And yeah, this is actually open up maybe our next part, like the managing, communication and managing stakeholders, like we literally talk a little bit about. But like this is where I think, maybe we can talk about like how do you actually influence, right, people on different departments, because I think let's maybe go back into the original, like the point, right? Like, so let's say you're a designer or you're an engineer. You move into, let's say, as a designer, go into a company, you work really well, you have great skills, but if you start struggling to, let's say, push your ideas, and you get all the time like stuck, right? And you don't know how to do that, and you're probably going to blame like engineers, or you're going to blame the
Yeah.
PMs, most likely, right? You hear this every time, right? That's a hard situation, because this is a real case, right? I talk to many people, especially when I mentor, I hear this too, right? I think like this is a very common thing.
Yeah.
Even though like we probably don't work like the similar levels, but I see it a lot. How do you see this, like the struggle? Because I would like to understand why people are struggling in this area.
Well, I'm still struggling myself as well.
Yeah, you see?
So, so I'm still struggling the same for the same thing as well. But well, the thing is, most of the time when you get the rejection, there is a reason behind it. And
Hmm.
instead of I think again back to the human skills. Whenever you get rejection, anything like in life, there is a reason behind that. And instead of just pointing the finger toward yourself, I mean, people usually do that. Maybe I'm not doing good. Maybe this my idea is not good, or maybe it's just their mistake or whatever. Instead of that, just the first thing you could do is just taking one step back and
Hmm.
understand or try to understand what was the reason behind the rejection, finding the
Hmm.
and then try to attack the same problem again, uh,
Yeah.
and be consistent. And because eventually, if it's a good idea and you believe that it's a good idea, eventually it happens. And if you get pushback and you find the reason and you are also convinced that okay, maybe not a good idea, so maybe you don't need to follow that again, right?
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes it's just a matter of time as well. So maybe right now is not the right time to
Hmm.
for that specific idea. So, and when it comes to stakeholders, so every single stakeholder you have for different kind of projects, they have different interests. It's again important to understand their interest first, so that once you want to present something to them, you know from which aspect you should talk, and and what exactly you want to convince, or why you want to convince that person. Because if you're just talking the same thing to the different stakeholders, you're probably not going to get the buy-in from everybody. So it's important to tweak your pitch for different stakeholders based on interest, and that would probably give you a better chance to get the buy-in. But again, I'm still
Yeah.
struggling. So it's a difficult thing because
Yes.
especially in the larger organizations, there are a lot going on, and all people just dealing with a lot of things at the same time. So yeah, so what I do, for example, myself, after stepping up as like a staff engineer, I also try to. So one of the roles I have is to just put guardrails when it comes to the project implementation. But I just don't want to put the guardrail and then say nothing. I try to explain why it is important to not doing this and doing that instead. So hopefully people can also understand, because there are a lot of good ideas coming from engineers all the
Yeah.
time in different projects. But it's also my responsibility to make sure that we achieve the goal with the time frame that we agreed on. Also making sure that engineers are not discouraged by raising their idea. So I also try to do my best to just give them the why and why we cannot do that right now. And hopefully that would be also helpful for them.
First of all, the reason you mentioned also, I'm still doing it, I'm still struggling, right? That's just everybody, right? All of us. I think this is something you're gonna struggle even when you go to the very top because
Yeah.
it's never easy, right?
It
And it's a good thing that we talk about because I mean, especially when you're starting, you probably think like, if I was a manager, it'd be okay, right? I can do whatever I want. But actually, it's get worse when you become
Yes,
manager. Oh,
exactly.
go on.
It's not getting any better. It's just getting worse and worse.
Yes. Exactly. So let's talk about it because this, I think, is super important, right? So I agree with you 100%, right?
Mhm.
I struggle it myself, right? I struggle a lot with a lot of places I worked in. I thought like, these engineers don't want to do anything.
Mhm.
Maybe it is the case, but there's always something, like you said, right?
Yeah.
I would say like one thing that really helped me, I don't know if it's similar for you, like you need to learn how to do like right trade-offs. And you need to, like you mentioned, right? You cannot make everybody happy and you cannot
Yeah.
get the win by yourself, right? So
Exactly.
this is something really start helping me. And the more I start get better at it, I think it got easier.
Yeah.
So you need to actually help them to also, get them into your ideas, right? Get them into your ideas and let's
Yeah.
collaborate.
Yeah, I think that's so trade-off is very, so it's a common thing for everybody, I guess, right? And as you go higher, it is getting more and more important to make sure that you can articulate the reasoning, and also being able to convey your thinking process and how you
Yeah.
think about this trade-off. People can also understand and follow.
And another thing which I can think of also this since we're talking about this presenting your ideas, especially as designers, you are ideating, right? You're doing the all the research, you do the designs, right?
Mhm.
Uh, but also this is come like you need to communicate your designs, right? It's very normal, right? Every organization you need to show the ideas and how
Yeah.
does it work. You go through people and people allow to like give feedback and and there's no never perfect. I think that's also something I think a lot of times maybe in the beginning of your career you don't do is presenting the correct way you thinking process. I think a lot of times I see a lot of people, and this reflects from portfolios I see a lot of times reviewing, right?
Mhm.
People just jump onto the decision and jump onto
Yes.
the fancy visuals.
Yes.
And you need to think, like you said, right? You're in a cross-functional setting, and if you become an engineer, you just, super busy building some infrastructure or
Yes.
something
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
into a thing and you have no idea what you're saying, right?
Exactly.
And
So
then what?
yeah, it's exactly the same thing as engineers. So there is this concept of shifting left, something like that, which is basically about, so we have different like a stage of developing a software uh, until it actually gets into the production. So the shifting left mindset is just about make sure that you have the reviews and everything early on rather than waiting until something is ready to get into the production, and then people say, oh no, it actually doesn't work like that, it shouldn't be like this. And then so that's the first problem, which I guess designers and engineers both sometimes struggle. And the second thing is that at that point, when everything is ready, get tied to their solution. They just try to, it, like, be attached to the solution. And then if someone jump and then say, okay, it doesn't work and it shouldn't be like that, they just get offended, which is also
Yeah.
not true. And so what I feel, and I always try to make sure that people can understand, is that there is no my solution or your solution. There is something in between, like the whole team.
Yes.
We are trying to
Yes.
solve the same problem. If you have idea, you bring it to the table, and then if your idea works, then we can ship it. Otherwise, we
Yeah.
change it. So these are important, and I think it's a very common mistake early on in the career as well for both designers and engineers.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And this is actually, it reflects really well. There's a really good book. It's called Articulating Design Decisions. I
Mhm.
read like some time ago, but it's one of the actually talks about a lot of these like soft skills, how to actually work with people. If you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. It's really good. It has a really good principles. And talking about that, actually, one of the things, like you mentioned at the very end, when there is not your solution or the other person's solution, your ideas, especially when you want to go up, you want to be a leadership, you want to get into a senior roles, more you need to exclude the opinions from you or the other and think more on the bigger outcome, right? Bigger outcome of the customers or what are the problem you're trying to solve. I think this is like maybe you are growing into a bigger role. You probably think about it, but I think in the very early, you don't think. I know for sure because I didn't
Yeah,
think that much in the earlier. You just stuck in the task and you think like this is what I'm trying to do. But if you can start like gaining this knowledge, like hey, I should think a little bit beyond the little piece and how does it fit to the bigger picture, or
exactly.
at least like start probing that, you're gonna be really good, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a muscle that you need to work and improve over time, because if you if you always have this kind of attachment to what you're doing, then you're gonna struggle a lot in your career, because
Mm.
there's always a change, there's always opinion from different people, and you always need to make sure that you are aware of the fact that, okay, this is not defining me. It's just one of the solutions that people can come up with. So if there is a better one, then let's go for that one. Yeah.
It's great to hear also like how both of us kind of think the same way, that you would like
Yeah.
validate like the leadership is the same principles at the end, right? Going to our final part, like I want to talk a little bit about creating your career, I would say.
Mhm.
Because that's also important, how you think about career. Because
Yeah.
the again, maybe I don't know if it's same for you, Hamid, but like I never thought about it when I was starting to, I was just doing,
Nobody
just
does
going through,
it. Nobody
right?
does it. We just want to work, and then that's true.
But that's actually the great thing, right? Like if you do, let's say if you are a great mentor, you're a great manager, right? You can get this like exposure to you.
Mhm.
Maybe let's talk about like how did you start like thinking about it? This is what I want to do, this is where I like to go.
I think it just naturally happened. The first thing, and the most important thing that I can say is that I was fortunate enough to always followed my passion and things that I really love to work with. So when I started, I was just enjoying designing. So I was just I love to design stuff. So I worked as a UI designer, and then I got interested into like implementing my own design. So I got into front end development and so on and so forth. So it's always about, okay, I love this, I like to do that, then I would do that. Because I think there are many things when you work, there are many things that come to your plate, and then it makes things complicated and difficult. And if you don't like what you're doing, you cannot really progress. So uh, the first thing that I can say and I can suggest to everyone is just do what you like to do. Uh,
Mhm.
and forget about all the shiny things and noises outside. Um,
Yeah.
that's the first recommendation.
In a way, you're trying to say is find your ikigai, right? Your
Yeah,
purpose.
exactly. Find your ikigai. Yeah, perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is I think is a really good thing. Like if you start understanding your purpose, yeah, that everything falls up easily, where you want to go.
Yeah, and it's not static, right? So over the time, your needs, your goals, your purpose, and your everything will change. So I've seen people pick something and stay there for a long, long time, and even though the thing that they're working with is just not relevant enough anymore, they are still
Mhm.
just very into that particular thing that they started with, and it doesn't work like that anymore. Like the world is changing very fast, and if you don't reconsider what you considered before, probably in the long run you are struggling as well. So
Yeah, we talked a lot of things about now. I think we actually closed a lot of topics that's very important. I think career progression, especially this one, is very important. What I would like to also address is about business skills. So we talked about all these soft skills, we talked, which is very important. Uh, I think the other part, especially as a designer, also from experience, this is a part that a lot of people struggle, the how to relate, your craft into business. What's your take on it? I'll give you my take after that.
yeah, I think it's important to understand the business domain you're working on. And every single like domain that you're working, there is always some specific metrics which are important for business. And the first thing that you can do, kind of helping business metrics improvement. A lot of people, even like engineers, they don't really know about the actual business metrics and how they impact the overall outcome. But if they know, then they can also they can make a better decision when they have to choose between A and B, and they can also
Hmm.
get the point easier because all the things that we are doing, it's just because of the business. And if you know the business priorities and how your work can have impact on those priorities, then it can also help you with the things that we already talked
Hmm.
about, like a stakeholder management, getting the buy-in, and influence people. Um,
Yeah,
that's my take.
I agree. And plus, what I can add as a designer myself and also like other designers working, I see it like this, right? Like, so I was lucky. I worked in two startups, 0 to 1. During those roles, I actually learned so much that actually I did a lot of things that it's not in your designer job description. Uh, but I think it's not the case for every company. I can tell you because in the startup environment, I actually understood what I want to do, right? I understood like what all our North Star in a way, saying this is where we're aiming, right?
Mhm.
And it was kind of embedded to all of us, everybody. I guess that's how people actually choose also when you're hiring for startups, in my opinion, right? You have to.
And it's good, and so it's a good thing for people who wants to learn different things, as you said. So if there is a small startup and you join them, then you have this opportunity to join meetings that probably you cannot actually attend when it comes to the bigger organizations. So it can give you a chance to understand how other people think, like how CFO thinks, how CEO,
Yes.
and how they talk, and what are the important things for them. And eventually, so as you move to bigger and bigger organization, you can just bring this knowledge with you. I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm pretty sure that even the CFO of a big organization has a different completely mindset than like a small startup, but it's still
Yeah. Yeah.
there are things that you can expose to so that you can also gain some more experience and knowledge outside of your expertise.
Yeah. But in a large organization, I think you need to develop like how each dot connects, I guess, to the top line. Um,
Actually, I think I would say startups are not even as clear as a bigger organization. The problem with bigger organization is that it's just too big. So you need to spend more time than it does. But usually when you are with a big organization, it means that they have much more clear vision and mindset about their growth.
yes.
But it's gonna be difficult to acquire this knowledge of North Star and the vision and everything because it's just too much of thing, and you need to spend a lot of more time to understand that.
having those business goals and customer goals like from the very beginning, especially if you're like a very new to like let's say new designer working in industry, if you have these things all the time, like being seen as a new designer, I think that's gonna also create like a different mindset how you're gonna approach. Uh, it's not the case, I would say, like when you start, a lot of people actually, I don't think, get the visibility for all of these. That's just my opinion, though. One thing might be wrong, but like
No, no,
I
that's
don't I
true.
don't think every company is the same. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, so some of these things that we are discussing is just based on the context that we are living, right? So
Yes.
you may experience completely different thing, even with the same organization size that I am working with, for example. But as you said, it just very depends on the context and different
Yeah.
context.
Yeah. So we talked a lot of points in different spectrums. Uh, what about Len? Before we finish, we talk about some of our experiences and maybe from our experience, and then we also synthesize what are like, let's say, the most important things from all these discussed topics. You think like, let's say, somebody new listening, right?
Mm,
Somebody new in their career, they try, let's say, a takeaway for them.
right. Takeaway for them. I can say do what you love and what you are passionate about, and try to make sure that you're not only focusing on harder skills, but also make sure that you can develop human skills as well. And
Hmm.
the last thing as the takeaway is just try to find a good leader and work for them. Then you can also become a good leader.
That's the famous saying, right? When you find a good manager, everything becomes very fast in
Exactly.
career.
Exactly. Exactly.
I guess like a lot of points. It's very hard to take everything, but
Yeah.
if I can pick few, I would also say, right, start developing your EQ skills, like, everything, the soft skills that we talked about, how to deal with the people. Yeah, get really good with your craft, which is very important as a designer. But as you get good with your craft, start getting better, even better with your EQ. That's very important.
Yeah.
And then I would say the other thing, like I really meant, start taking the ownership, start practicing, right? Taking ownership and like be proactive.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, I would say the 100%, like find a good mentor and a manager. That is gonna skyrocket your career.
One more thing that I just remember is that you always try to find a little bit harder problem to solve, and then gradually you just it just naturally comes that as you solve the harder problem, then you gain more experience and knowledge, and people can also trust you more, and they will actually give you bigger projects. That's also
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Awesome. And before you go, I'll ask you also a few questions from you, and just for the audience. So I know like you read a lot of books. You can recommend a couple of books that you're reading around like leadership or career or something that's similar to what we talked about.
Now there are a lot of books, and it's always hard to pick one. It's not specifically about career or leadership, but it's about how to live a fulfilling life. And the title of book is "How Will You Measure Your Life" by Clayton Christensen. That's a good one if I just want to pick one book for audience.
Okay. Um, and do you have any maybe final thought like I don't know, for a designer or engineer, like when they're thinking about like moving up or leadership that they need to think about?
Um, I would say if you are aiming for managing people, make sure that you first understand how the role exactly works. I've seen a lot of people switch to the management role and management positions, and they come back again because they had no idea what's going on.
Mhm.
So you will never understand 100% of how it works unless you actually do that. That's true, but there are many good sources like books or people who are doing it that you can ask and get more context before jumping into this role because it's a completely different role
Yeah.
and it requires many different skill sets. So make sure that you are ready for it until you jump, which is a bit against of the other philosophy that I always have because it's always like if you feel like you're not ready for jump, you should jump at that point. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
depends, but make sure that at least you have enough understanding before jumping.
Absolutely. I think this is very, very common. Like it's a great time actually think about your purpose, like you said. When you have everything aligned, it makes much easier. What's your favorite AI tool?
Well, I use ChatGPT a lot for pretty much everything. It just became my one of my closest friends. I ask pretty much about a lot of things, even the workout training and the diet, and so yeah, that's what I do. I use these days.
And now I'm actually using Cloud and I'm loving it. It's so
Oh,
good.
yeah. There's also this text editor, not a text editor, but just a editor for the software engineering. It's called Cursor, and I also use that a lot to find stuff on our big code base. So that's also a good one.
Any lessons that you learned along the way that you very important for you that really helped you a lot?
Yeah. Well, what I've learned so far is that the career growth is not always upwards, and there are a lot of setbacks, and you need to expect those setbacks and just don't discourage, and try to get back to speed as much as possible. And if you know where you are heading, then it's gonna be fine. That's what I've learned so far.
All right. Thank you so much, Hamid. I think this was very, very interesting. I also learned a lot actually, and surprisingly, we have a very similar thought process when it comes to it. That's what I
Yeah,
learned.
yeah,
I actually
exactly.
never thought about it.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I didn't know about it. Many things that we have in common when it comes to engineers and designers. So it was a good one.
Awesome, and thank you so much then listening, and thank you, Hamid.
If this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you shared with somebody who might benefit. Great insights are meant to be shared. Thank you for listening. See you next episode.